This how cold MJ is. I'm giving y'all, I've never said this. One dude, it's got word around, you know, MJ, we all hanging out afterwards. One street dude come up there, got a bag of honey. MJ, let's gamble. MJ looked at him. Said, I ain't got a lot of time. Slip a coin for it, heads or tails. Dude looked at that hundreds. I'm good. He thought he was gonna go back and forth with him. He thought he was gonna go back and forth with him. MJ ain't got time for that.
He was a motherfucker both times. Because he was still talking that shit.
Yep, still talking shit.
Still talking that shit. He was still skilled. It was just health with him. And I had to guard that motherfucker. Gave us 40.
Good, this is Hussein from the Switch Podcast. I do have a question. Who's your greatest player of all time and what's your all-time 5?
Michael Jordan. The name alone sparks memories of dominance, greatness, and a level of competitive fire that redefined basketball. A 6-time NBA champion, 5-time MVP, and the undisputed GOAT in the eyes of many, Jordan wasn't just a superstar, he was the standard. From his gravity-defying dunks to his clutch performances, MJ didn't just win games, he took over them. But his legacy isn't just about the numbers. It's about the mentality, the mindset, and the fear he instilled in opponents. His impact is so massive that even decades after his final game, his influence still runs through the league. From young stars chasing greatness to established legends who grew up idolizing him, Jordan remains the measuring stick for basketball excellence. Today, we're breaking it all down. What do current NBA players really think about his airness? Michael Jordan. Luka Doncic has already made a name for himself as one of the most skilled players of his generation. A master of footwork, a wizard with the ball, and a player whose game is often compared to legends of the past. But despite all the accolades, records, and comparisons, there are still moments that remind him just how big basketball history really is. And one of those moments, hearing Michael Jordan say his name. For Luka, it wasn't just another meet and greet or a casual encounter. It was something surreal.
I mean, that's amazing. I don't know how to explain. That moment is just unbelievable, you know. MJ knows my name. It's a lot. So it was just unbelievable moment. I have no words for that.
Think about that for a second. Here's Luka Doncic, a player who has taken the NBA by storm, dropped historic triple-doubles, shattered records, and led his team to deep playoff runs, and yet, simply hearing Michael Jordan recognize him left him speechless. That's the power of Jordan's name. Luka has gone up against the best of the best. Yet, even among all those legends, MJ stands on a different level. Why? Because Jordan isn't just a basketball legend, he's basketball royalty. There's a reason why players across generations, even those who never got to watch him live, still see Jordan as untouchable. His name carries an aura, a presence that transcends stats and championships. For Luka, that moment wasn't just about being recognized, it was about feeling connected to the history of the game. Because when Michael Jordan knows your name, that means you're doing something right. When it comes to scoring, impact, and pure basketball mastery, few players in NBA history can hold a candle to Kevin Durant. A 2-time NBA champion, 4-time scoring champion, and one of the most unstoppable offensive forces the game has ever seen, Durant has spent his entire career chasing greatness. And for him, greatness had a name: Michael Jordan. In an interview, Durant spoke about MJ's overwhelming influence not just as a player, but as a cultural icon who shaped the entire sport.
I mean, Jordan was everything. You know, he was the standard. He was what you strive to be as a basketball player. I mean, obviously the shoes, the jersey sales, the commercials, all of that stuff was constant. But when you watch the play and your eyes were always glued to the TV, glued to him, and he just personified winning and competitiveness. And, you know, as a young player, I took from that.
For Durant, Jordan wasn't just the best player of his time. He was the blueprint. The way MJ moved, the way he carried himself, the way he refused to lose, it all set the standard for what it meant to be great. It wasn't just about being talented. It was about being relentless. It wasn't just about putting up big numbers. It was about making sure those numbers translated to winning. And Jordan? He was the perfect example of both. Even with all the hype surrounding his shoes, his commercials, and his off-court brand, Jordan's real power wasn't in the marketing. It was in the way he played the game. When you watched him, you couldn't look away. Every drive to the basket was calculated. Every fadeaway jumper was unstoppable. Every game felt like a championship game. That's what Durant studied. That's what he internalized. Because when you're a young hooper dreaming of making it to the NBA, you don't just look up to great players. You try to absorb everything that made them great. For KD, Jordan was the ultimate lesson in competitive fire. And decades later, that fire is still burning in the players he inspired. Few players in NBA history have carried the weight of constant comparisons like LeBron James. For years, the debate has raged.
Hold on. You said LeBron James the greatest player ever?
Ever.
What about Michael and Kobe? So you just gonna pass Kobe up like that?
I'm gonna pass Kobe up. I'm gonna look at Michael.
LeBron versus Jordan. Who's the real GOAT? Who had the tougher competition? Who left the bigger impact? But if you ask LeBron himself, there's no debate. Because when he met Michael Jordan for the first time, it wasn't just a handshake between two all-time greats. It was something much bigger.
When I met Michael Jordan for the first time, I literally couldn't believe it was him. I couldn't believe it. Like, the dude looked like Jesus Christ to me. He looked like he was Black Jesus to me. No one could tell me anything different.
That wasn't just admiration. That was pure awe. Think about it. This is LeBron James, a generational superstar, a player who entered the league with the nickname The Chosen One, someone who had been carrying expectations since he was 16 years old. And yet, standing in front of Michael Jordan, he felt like a kid again. Because for LeBron, like so many others, Jordan wasn't just a player. He was an icon. Growing up, LeBron watched MJ dominate the 90s, turn the Bulls into a dynasty, and redefine what it meant to be a winner. For him, Jordan was the standard, the blueprint, the unreachable legend. And in that moment, when he finally met him, all those years of watching, idolizing, and studying came rushing back. This wasn't a peer. This was the man who inspired his entire basketball journey. No matter how much LeBron has accomplished, the titles, the MVPs, the records, he never forgets who came first. When you think of game changers in NBA history, Steph Curry is at the top of the list. His deep-range shooting, his ability to bend defenses, and the way he redefined modern basketball put him in a category reserved for only the most influential players the sport has ever seen. And yet, even with everything he's accomplished, when it comes to greatness, there's still one name that stands above the rest: Michael Jordan. Curry once had the chance to talk with MJ over the summer, and their conversation wasn't about basketball. It was about golf of all things. But somehow, even in that setting, Jordan's legendary mindset still came through.
The best part is I talked to MJ over the summer when I did an interview with him talking about golf, ironically. And he would be disappointed, I think, if I didn't have that confidence in my team. Because if anybody is going to try to measure up with him and the dynasty of the Bulls, you can't have no other attitude than that. So I love it, though, because as any hoop head and anybody who watched that team know how great they were and how great he is, the greatest ever. Like, what are we talking about?
That's pure Jordan. Even in a casual conversation, MJ's obsession with winning and his uncompromising standards came through. For Curry, that interaction wasn't just about respecting Jordan's dominance, it was about understanding his mentality. Because for Jordan, confidence wasn't just a trait, it was a necessity. If you wanted to compete at the highest level, if you wanted to measure up to the greats, there was only one acceptable mindset: you have to believe you're the best. That's exactly how Jordan operated throughout his career. And that's exactly how Curry approaches the game today. Just like MJ, Curry has built a dynasty, led a revolution, and completely changed the way the game is played. But the greatest ever? That title still belongs to his airness. And Curry, one of the most transformative players in NBA history, has no problem admitting that. Anthony Edwards isn't one to mince words. Known for his swagger, confidence, and electric style of play, Edwards has quickly become one of the NBA's most entertaining young stars. He talks big, plays bigger, and never backs down from any challenge. But when it comes to Michael Jordan, even Anthony knows when to keep it simple.
No moves, man. Shout out to MJ. He the GOAT. I wish y'all stopped comparing me to him.
That's it. Short, direct, no debate necessary. Edwards has heard the comparisons, his athleticism, his fearlessness, his ability to take over games. Some people even see shades of young MJ in his style. But to him, there's only one Michael Jordan. And he doesn't want his name in that conversation. It's rare to see a young star reject comparisons to greatness, but that just speaks to the respect Jordan commands. Edwards knows he's talented. He knows he's got the tools to be a superstar. But Jordan? That's different. Some players try to chase the GOAT, others just recognize the gap and keep hooping. For Anthony Edwards, There's nothing more to say. MJ is the GOAT. End of story. Zach LaVine is no stranger to highlight reel moments. With jaw-dropping athleticism, a silky jumper, and an elite scoring ability, LaVine has spent his career electrifying crowds, just like a certain Bulls legend did before him. And as a Chicago Bulls star himself, LaVine understands the weight of that jersey better than most. So when he talks about Michael Jordan, it's not just admiration, it's a deep appreciation for the way MJ carried himself, both on and off the court.
I was a huge Michael Jordan fan, and I think all of us were. Just seeing how he interacted with his teammates and how he moved as a player and the way his mind worked. You can watch all the stats you want to and all the highlights, but seeing, dudes in practice or having up-close interviews is different. So I thought it was eye-opening. To be honest, it's crazy that they were still that popular and that famous.
For LaVine, being a fan of Jordan wasn't just about the highlights, it was about seeing how he operated behind the scenes. Stats and mixtapes will tell you that MJ was a dominant force, but what really separates him is what you see in those raw, unfiltered moments. How he demanded excellence from his teammates, how he dissected the game mentally before it even happened, how he carried himself like the biggest star in the world, but still worked like an underdog. That's what struck LaVine the most. Watching MJ in interviews or behind the scenes showed a different level of intensity, focus, and presence. And the fact that Jordan's popularity hasn't faded one bit, even decades after he retired, that speaks for itself. LaVine understands firsthand what it means to be the face of the Chicago Bulls, but he also knows that no matter how many stars come through the city, MJ will always be the guy. Jordan's legacy isn't just about what he did on the court, it's about the way he made people feel. And no matter how much time passes, that feeling never fades. For Jason Tatum, basketball isn't just a sport, it's a legacy passed down through generations. And when you talk about legends who shaped the game, one name stands above the rest: Michael Jordan. Tatum never had the chance to watch MJ play live, but that didn't stop him from feeling his impact every time he picked up a basketball.
Jordan means so much to myself and to just the game of basketball. And all the millions and millions of people he has inspired doing what he loves. Right? Kids like myself, even though I never got to see him play live, but watching highlights growing up, and just understanding, who he was and how much he meant to the game of basketball.
Tatum's words capture something special about Jordan's legacy. Most players look up to stars they watched growing up, players who shaped the game in their era. But Jordan, his greatness transcends time. Even players who never saw him live, players who grew up in the eras of Kobe, LeBron, and Curry, still recognize him as the gold standard. Because when you watch MJ's highlights, you're not just seeing a dominant scorer or an elite defender. You're watching a mentality. The drive to win at all costs. The ability to take over a game whenever he wanted. The swagger, the confidence, and the intimidation factor that made him untouchable. Jordan didn't just play basketball, he turned it into an art form. And for young players like Tatum, who grew up studying the greats, Jordan wasn't just an icon, he was the blueprint. Every generation of stars leaves a mark on the next one. Jordan inspired Kobe. Kobe inspired Tatum. And now, Tatum is inspiring the next generation. That's the beauty of basketball. It's not just about stats and records, it's about the players who define eras, change the game, and inspire millions to chase greatness. And when it comes to that, nobody did it like Michael Jordan. For Chris Paul, basketball isn't just something he plays, it's something he lives and breathes. And if you trace that passion back to where it all started, it leads straight to Michael Jordan. The veteran point guard has spent nearly 2 decades in the NBA, building a career of elite playmaking, leadership, and a level of competitiveness that separates him from the rest. But according to Paul, none of it, not the drive, the hunger, or even his place in the league would have existed without MJ.
For me, I played this game and fell in love and the passion with this game because of Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? That's just always going to be that for me. I'm not in the NBA. I wouldn't have the drive and the will without Michael Jordan.
That's more than admiration. That's a direct impact. Paul didn't just grow up watching Jordan dominate. He grew up wanting to be like him. The mentality, the relentless pursuit of greatness, the ability to elevate teammates while still taking over when needed, all of it shaped the way Paul approached the game. Paul's game is nothing like Jordan's. He's not soaring through the air or hitting fadeaway jumpers over double teams, but what he did take from MJ was just as important. A refusal to accept losing, the demand for excellence from himself and his teammates, the ability to take control of a game, not just with skill, but with willpower. That's the real impact of Jordan's legacy. It's not just about inspiring high-flying scorers, it's about shaping competitors. For Paul, Jordan wasn't just the best player of his era, he was the reason so many kids picked up a basketball. And for Chris, he wasn't just inspired by Jordan's highlights, he was inspired by the mindset, the fire, the commitment to winning at all costs. That's what stuck with him. And even after years in the NBA, Paul still carries that influence with him every time he steps on the court. Because Jordan's impact isn't just about scoring titles and championships, it's about the players, like Chris Paul, who embody his competitive spirit and push the game forward. If there's one player in today's NBA who knows a thing or two about delivering in the clutch, it's Damian Lillard. From game-winning daggers to his signature Dame Time moments, Lillard has built a reputation as one of the most fearless, cold-blooded competitors in the game. And when it comes to naming his GOAT, there's no hesitation, no debate, no second-guessing. For Dame, the answer is simple.
Who is your NBA GOAT? And explain why. My NBA GOAT is Michael Jordan. It's just different when you talk about MJ. On the floor, it's just never been nobody like him. You know, nobody electrified the crowd like him. You know, the Air Jordan shoe, rocking the cradle, walking in the air. You know, it's Jordan. You know what I'm saying? 2-3 on his back. I don't think it's, you know, too much of a debate, you know, as far as who's the GOAT. You know, and I would say it's Jordan.
Lillard isn't just talking about Jordan's skill set. He's talking about the energy MJ brought every single night. There was a magic to the way Jordan played, the way he could take over a game at will, the way he could make the impossible look effortless, the way every moment felt bigger when he was on the floor. For Dame, it wasn't just about stats or championships, it was about the way Jordan moved, the way he carried himself, and the way he made you believe something special was about to happen. Because when MJ stepped onto the court, it wasn't just a basketball game, it was a show, a spectacle, a moment in history. And for a player like Lillard, who thrives in the biggest moments, that kind of electric presence is something he respects deeply. Some players like to analyze the GOAT conversation, break it down by era, or weigh different aspects of greatness, not Dame. For him, the answer has always been clear. Jordan isn't just the greatest player, he's the ultimate competitor, the standard for basketball excellence. And if you ask Lillard, there's not much to argue about. It's MJ, period. For SGA, being compared to Michael Jordan isn't something he takes lightly. The smooth, methodical play style, the ability to get to his spots effortlessly, the footwork. It's no surprise that some people have started drawing loose comparisons between SGA and Jordan. But if you ask SGA, he's just honored to be in the conversation.
Yeah, it sounds cool to just be, you know what I'm saying, mentioned in a conversation with a name like that when it comes to basketball. Michael Jordan did that and won a lot more games, so it's probably a little bit different. But yeah, it's cool to be in the conversation for sure.
SGA isn't the type to overhype himself or feed into comparisons. He just puts in the work and lets his game do the talking. And even though he's already established himself as one of the NBA's top guards, he knows that mentioning his name alongside Michael Jordan is a completely different level. Jordan didn't just put up numbers, he won. A lot. So while SGA appreciates the recognition, he also keeps it real, saying outright that MJ's legacy is in a class of its own. For DeMar DeRozan, respect isn't just given, it's earned. Throughout his career, DeRozan has built a reputation as one of the smoothest mid-range scorers in the NBA, a player whose footwork and shot-making ability often draw comparisons to some of the all-time greats. And if there's one name that always carries weight, Michael Jordan. So when DeRozan hears his name mentioned in the same breath as MJ, he doesn't take it lightly.
Michael Jordan in it is a hell of a accomplishment.
DeRozan knows what it means to be compared to greatness. Over the years, fans and analysts have pointed out the similarities in his game, the deadly mid-range, the footwork, the ability to rise up in clutch moments. Some have even said that if DeRozan had played in the 90s, his play style would have fit perfectly alongside Jordan's era. But DeRozan, he's not out here calling himself the next MJ. Instead, he takes those comparisons as the highest form of respect. Because being mentioned in the same conversation as Michael Jordan isn't just about skill, it's about impact. And DeRozan knows what that means. Jordan wasn't just a great player, he was the blueprint for what it means to dominate the game mentally and physically. DeRozan has modeled parts of his approach after MJ, not just his scoring ability, but the way he carries himself on and off the court. And when someone links his name with Jordan's, he doesn't brush it off. He takes a second to appreciate it. Because when you grow up watching MJ, idolizing his game, and then one day hear your name even loosely connected to his, that's something you don't ever take for granted. Michael Jordan isn't just the GOAT to many, He's the standard. From his relentless competitiveness to his legendary clutch moments, his influence still runs deep in today's NBA. Whether it's Steph Curry, LeBron James, or rising stars like Jason Tatum, the respect for MJ is universal and undeniable. His legacy, unmatched. His impact, everlasting. Now we turn it over to you. Where does Michael Jordan rank on your all-time list? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because one thing is for sure, his airness will never be forgotten.